Hey, hi there. Just about half an hour to go before my next class. I just thought I'd pop in here with another short podcast on my tips and hints. So you've done your training and you've still got your day job. It's sort of like where do I start? When do I start? How do I start? Should I obviously you wouldn't go full time straight away because you need to make that cash. So financially you need to be stable. So sort of thinking about part time. I mean, I started as a fitness instructor and a good way to start, I hired there was a church hall, a community hall nearby where we used to work. I'm just lucky to have that. Sometimes you may have a spare room in your work premises. And colleagues came to the class. I just introduced a lunchtime class between 12 till 1 or 1 till 2 or whatever, you can do like an hour class, 45-minute classes. And it's a good way to practice, get your friends, your colleagues to join. And then I mean, at the time, it was only a small amount they were paying me. So you could just do that, or introduce some like cheap classes, or I don't know if you wanted to do. So probably not free classes, but or maybe you can complimentary classes and sort of like a cheap fee to start with. So that was my recommendation. If you do work in sort of like in a sort of like in your office space, depending on where you work, you can hire um a sort of a room nearby and then get your colleagues, friends, and family to join, or even practice with friends and family. And then you can move on because, like, you've got your day job. You want that security for the meantime. It's sort of like dipping your toe into it, and maybe introduce some evenings and weekend classes. You hire a place, or there's there's a way also where you can get paid. You can sign up for a health club or a studio, and you can sign up as a cover teacher, or sort of like do you can agree to do a few hours if they would take you a few hours per week, maybe evenings and weekend working in a studio or in a gym. That's another option. So if you don't want to, because another thing about hiring a place, you've got to think about the cost of hiring the room for an hour. So you've got that to think about. So in like a gym environment or a studio environment, you could sign up to work, do their evenings or weekend shifts or whenever you are free, or lunchtime shift if you are free for that. And also one thing with that, if people don't turn up, you get a small class. You do get paid for if people haven't turned up, you get a small class. But in a gym and if you have your own place, sometimes you end up paying the cost, and nobody's turned up, or one or two's not turned up. So again, you have to make sure it's worth your while and you are at least breaking even. You don't really want to lose your profit. Another thing, make sure you get yourself insured as a teacher. Once you've qualified, you've got your insurance. And if you check out if you're using music, it's all this public liability. So that is important too. So just check out that. There's some really good insurance companies, and check if you're using music, just check it's under the public liability also. And another thing, the option now, like since the lockdown days, there's an option of doing online classes via Zoom, so you don't need to hire anything. You do that on your like I'm recording this on Zoom. Yeah, so you then I upload it. Um, yeah, you can do live classes via Zoom, so they join you on the Zoom line, and also you could. I mean, on another podcast, it's good. It'll be too much to take in today, but you can upload your recorded classes as well. That's another options. But think about Zoom as well, the online space, FaceTime. You've got that option as well if you wanted to do that. If you didn't want to hire anything. And the other thing is publicity as well. How do you get people to come along? Like I just said, like you got, I mean, for a long time I had my colleagues and friends were coming, they're my regular customers as well. And also there's things like word of mouth, somebody knows somebody else. And also in my day, there was no social media. You've got the option of social media now for advertising, like in the event section on Facebook, on Instagram, you can um I've written all these down. Yeah, so social media, word of mouth, and also most importantly, you can just set up you can set yourself up on Google, and also just a basic website. You can just probably design it yourself, or get like a simplified, get someone to do it for you, or a simplified way you can do it yourself. A simple website where people will find you, and then you've got your bookings and everything. So that's another option. So people would see that, and that will link into Google, and also the LinkedIn space as well. You can be on that, so people will find you on that and where your classes are. So definitely sort of the Google space, your website, the LinkedIn. So it's not just social media. Locally, amongst the community, there's also, you can still do leaflets. People still do leaflets. That's a good idea as well. Um, and then, but just make sure that you're getting enough experience, and you are making the money, and also getting the right equipment. Like, it's probably recommended that people do bring their own equipment, like mats and everything, but you can invest in some cheap mats. And if you wanted to have some overballs weights, I know it's a lot of things to carry, but sometimes in these places you hire, it can get complicated, but you can store these things. So it's another thing to think about mats, but it's recommended people do bring their own mats as well. I think I got a little some easy folding up mats. I was sort of like driving everywhere. So a little folded up mat. So if people forgot their mats, I had something there, and I had some cushions and stretch bands and etc. Everything. So people didn't have them. So it just depends how your classes are going to be like. But definitely it probably be good to tell them to bring their own their own mats, because also it's an investment for them, and it'll make them come, etc. So that's another option as well, to think about what equipment you'll be using, because obviously if you start off as a mat instructor, it'll be it'll be very straightforward. And then also you need to think about the financial stability. I mean, further down the line, I mean, it's talking about a long way. You might think about taking the full plunge and teaching full time. So a good way to start would be your evenings and weekends, and or cover teaching up, doing your